Born on the 4th of July. It's my second time seeing it. I do think Tom Cruise is genuinely astonishing in this. I saw that video for his new film, Digger. It was like the preview where Cruise had the pre-roll of all his like previous films. I don't remember seeing Born on the 4th of July on there. I might be wrong, but
it was just a close-up of his eyes from the movie.
Was
like
it?
When he's in Nom. Yeah. It's like 2 seconds and it's gone.
So even then, it's not even the one that gets the attention, but I do think it might be his best performance in many ways. I still might reserve it for Eyes Wide Shut, but he's astonishing in this movie.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, joined my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Put a sparkler in that urethra, jerk off a bald eagle, and win a hot dog eating contest. It's the 4th of July, bitches.
Yay! 4th of July, bitches. Yeah.
I call it firework day. Yeah.
I call it day off of work day. That's what I end up calling it, as day off of work day. I'd love to say, yeah, America, F yeah, but I don't know. If you're listeners of this podcast, you know our politics, and if you're feeling great about 250 years and everything, yeah, it's good for you, buddy. I don't know. It's kind of a little, every year it gets to be a little bit harder. And I also say that, by the way, under both administrations, going all the way back to like 2020. Okay? Just pointing that out there. I don't like both of them.
And check the analytics,
and that's when we see a drop. Yeah, because you know what, John, I'm gonna make this drop early on, because I have a feeling the movie we're covering this week is gonna be one of those movies where, like, if you love America and you love the current people that are running the government in America, you're going to be angry about everything that we talk about, because this movie is anti-war up the ass. We're talking about 1989's Born on the 4th of July, because, of course, July 4th. And we're not doing this alone,
heady
right?
movie. I was going to say, this seems like a heady movie, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, it's
some backup.
It doesn't fit our usual scheme of cult horror comedy / blow 'em up America F yeah aliens.
Don't forget sharks. Yeah.
Oh, sharks. Yeah. Fucking sharks, man. But no, we've got a special guest. He's back with us again. He helped us conquer War of the Worlds, and well, he wanted to come back. And we've got Henry O'Brien back with us. How you doing, Henry?
Hey guys, great to be back.
First question I got for you is, what are you cooking on your barbecue during the 4th of July?
Well, there's these smoked ribs, these gluten-free smoked ribs. I do have celiacs. Shout out all my celiac people out there. July 4th is usually not a kind holiday to us, with most of it being hot dogs and hamburgers.
You can, I guess, have the hot dog without the bun, but that's not really fun.
You know how sad that looks? Everyone looks at you like you look like a loser.
And they're like, "Oh, do you want some baked beans?" I'm like, "That has gluten in it because of the thickener."
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah.
And then you have to be the asshole at the party, be like, "Did anyone get anything gluten free?" You know,
you kind of look like somebody you admit to people that you're voting for a third party candidate. Everyone kind of looks at you like a loser.
You're like, "Oh, so you're like the Green Party guy."
Yeah. It's you kind of have to be that guy. I've learned to own it, but that's kind of my July 4th. These great smoked ribs my mom makes.
Nice,
very good. I'll be with my family, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's cool.
That's how I do it. I kind of, Brian, feel the same way. It gets tougher every year. July 4th, the fireworks are fun, but the hot dog contest gets boring.
Yeah,
you know?
Hot dog. I never understood that. I'm like, do we just want to
fun.
see someone
I love watching it every year.
John, do you watch a hot dog eating contest every year?
No, I always see the highlights of it, and I want to throw up. They have to be shitting while they eat. I mean,
No.
I think that's against the rules, right? Like you can't have one thing going in and coming out at the same time.
It's Long Island. Like or Coney Island, excuse me. there's porta potty somewhere, surely.
Yeah, but John's saying like literally there's a shit bucket behind them.
There's only so much
Ah.
space. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let me imagine. No,
Yeah.
none of that exists.
So we lost our MAGA audience. We've now lost anyone who is like, oh, what's we're gonna talk about cooking things? Yeah. So let's talk about fucking war.
Mm-hmm.
And
War. I mean, it's this. It's the second episode now. Both movies are about war.
I mean, you really love war, don't you, Henry? Like you're
I
just
really
like War of the
don't.
Worlds, war
movies
in
are great, man.
the Pacific. Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, what is your
yeah.
guys' relationship with this movie? Like, is this just something that you saw, or like for me, I'll start because I feel like the reason I'm asking that is Oliver Stone is my favorite director.
Yes,
and this
he
is to me one of his greatest masterpieces. So I was, and Brian, as Brian mentioned, we always either talk about something that's a little more kitsch, 4th of July, like Jaws or Independence Day, or like novelty, like Uncle Sam. But this is the first time that we've done something that revolves around the 4th of July and patriotism that is like this heady. So I kind of hesitated for years doing this one, but we kind of gotten to that point now where we have to get a little bit more serious. And the fact that it's based on a true story and a real person who is still alive, like I think that's just, incredible stuff. So great topic for a movie.
Yeah. But Henry, what was your relationship to this movie? Was this the first time you saw it?
No, this is my second. A few years ago, I did go on the Oliver Stone binge, especially going with, and we'll talk about this more, about his, I guess, Vietnam trilogy, if you will, going through Platoon, Born on the 4th of July, and JFK, which, again, we'll get into all, like, how those movies are thematically and, in a sense, spiritually connected with how Stone views the world. But yeah, it's my second time seeing it. I definitely liked it the second time around. I do think Tom Cruise is genuinely astonishing in this, and it's interesting. I don't remember because I saw that video for his new film Digger. It was like the preview where Cruise had the pre-roll of all his like previous films. I don't remember seeing Born on the 4th of July on there. I might be wrong, but
it was there. It was just a close up of his eyes from the movie. Like when he's in Nam. Yeah. It's like 2 seconds and it's gone.
Yeah. It's not one that, okay. So even then, it's not even the one that gets the attention, but I do think it might be his best performance in many ways. I still might reserve it for Eyes Wide Shut, but he's astonishing in this movie, and we can get into why later.
Yeah. So I saw this movie in a film class that I took in undergrad, before, like when I was actually at community college. So I did community college first, and then I transferred to Robert Morris and got my bachelor degree. But one of the classes I took at community college was a film studies course, and the instructor I had was a Vietnam vet, and that was an interesting experience because clearly, like, he had opinions. And keep in mind, this was a time when we were still in Iraq and we were still in Afghanistan. So the specter of war and like the fact that honestly, a lot of us who were sitting in that room when I first saw this, either had friends or loved ones who were actively in a war zone, or had been affected by it to some degree. So, it rang very, very differently upon rewatching it because, I think when you watch a movie about war like this at a time when the media back then was wall to wall, Iraq, Afghanistan, weapons of mass destruction, all this stuff, you saw parallels. And now looking at this movie, 20 some odd years later, this one kind of feels like a prequel to our current existence, if anything. Like in terms of just like, this is what it was like when we kind of hid the fact it was propaganda that got us into war. And now it's like, we're not even hiding any of the propaganda anymore. We're just outright just saying what we want to do. And it's just that's kind of for me like my relationship to this movie. Yeah.
Well, the dog whistles either. People just say the dog whistles out loud now.
Oh, that's what I'm saying is like a lot of this movie's kind of themes are looking at someone who, ate the dog food, so to speak, for years, believed it, and then woke up. Right? And their journey of horror to get to that point where not only is their body ruined, their spirits ruined, but their redemption is from recognizing how completely fucked up our military industrial complex really is, and how everything related to our politics is all about violence and war.
Yep. I mean, and to add that, it's interesting because I went to school at Syracuse University in the early 2020s, and right around when I was graduating is when encampments started to show up around what's happening in Gaza, which I mean, many of the protesters, and I shared with them that what happening in Israel is a genocide, and it's direct parallels to what happened in this movie where there's a protest at Syracuse University, though it wasn't Syracuse. And as a Syracuse expert, I will poke holes in them saying it's Syracuse. Beside the point. But Syracuse University especially likes to remember the student protesters of Vietnam at the time, and just talk to them about the university, about how it was, even though the establishment at the time at the school was not in favor of it, in favor of these protests, there's still stories written by the university or by others around the university about like how powerful this was, how important this was. And yet when a newer generation does that for a newer conflict, backed and funded and carried out by the U.S. military industrial complex, or a more globalized version of it, it really gets tried to be swept under the rug. Yeah. Which is what a lot of Vietnam, including Kovic, I think he says he was swept under the rug, and because they don't want to make America look bad. And those protests, those veterans, those people who are suffering at the hands of this big lie, as you said, Brian, it's more open now.
Yeah.
Because we have access to it too. But the parallels are still there even today, period. Even just in the littlest of things, like protests happening at the school I went to.
Yeah. It's interesting watching this movie in today's environment and just seeing how I guess for me it's a thing where when we hear about, again, I'm not trying to pick a fight with the other side of the aisle here. I'm not trying to pick a fight, but when you see blind loyalty and blind adherence, I see parallels between Ron Kovic in the first half of this movie and people who support the current administration. And I almost wonder, I'm like, what is going to be their moment when they wake up? If they do. Because of the horrors this man had to go to get to that point is the only thing that shook him out of it.
Yeah. Another interesting aspect of it as well, and it's not entirely explored in this movie, but it is on the edges, more so in the frame of PTSD, but it does show you how this big lie affects people and how it affects their worldview and how they carry that out. And Brian, you were mentioning Iraq earlier, just about you watched it when Iraq was happening. And now we have a vice president, J.D. Vance, who a lot of his appeal has been on saying, and Trump's appeal was on it being a mistake, because for Vance, at least, he was an Iraq veteran and he saw it as his big lie, except now he's taking it another direction to make America into an isolationist Christian fundamentalist country. So it's interesting how the movie, I guess at the far edges of it, you can see how it's obviously this is the Ron Kovic story, but you can see how war affects people, and it affects people in different ways, and it can make people more violent, can make people more reserved, or can make people more just in favor of anti-war movements. So it's a very fascinating way, and Stone leaves so much out there to be explored on your own.
Like you said, yeah, it is technically the Ron Kovic story, but it is the story of, the middle to later part of the 20th century. Like, how do we get here, and what has been the end result of it? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what makes JFK so good. Because
see, you mentioned that, and I hate to be this guy, but I do think that Oliver Stone's Vietnam trilogy is Platoon, this film, and Heaven and Earth. I think that, I really think they should call it the quad trilogy, because JFK really is about, Kennedy was killed to progress to Vietnam.
But the thing is, though, and this is where I mean, I love JFK. I'll be the first to say that's one of my favorite Oliver Stone films.
It's his best movie. It's his best,
but
movie.
We know that not all of that is 100% factual.
Oh, sure.
And there's a lot with that particular film that makes me look at it and go like, how much of this is style over substance to some degree?
Sure. Have you guys done JFK?
Did we do?
We are this November.
Yeah, we are this November. That's right.
Could you have me on?
Yes, 100%.
Sure.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't think anyone's took
excuse
that
to
one
watch
yet.
JFK.
But like with this one, I because it's a biography of a real person, and I'm less to look at this and go like, oh yes, that part's fabricated, that part's not real, this part is inflated. Like, there's more in this movie that tells me that what we're seeing is at least how this person experienced it, because they were still alive, because they were involved, because this person was the writer of it. I mean, this is based off of his novel and his biography, and it rings more true than JFK does.
Yeah.
Not to say that there aren't stylistic elements in this. I mean, there's cinematography, so much style in this one that makes it, I think, more hyper real than you would say like Saving Private Ryan, which I think is probably one of the most realistic depictions of war that we've seen on film.
Yeah, but even like his style that he really finds, again, I find JFK, at least in a career arc of Stone, to be his high point. That's just my opinion. But Born on the 4th of July, stylistically, whether it be through just the cross-cutting, through the just overlapping dialogue, through the Williams score. This is John Williams' first collaboration with Oliver Stone. He's building towards what I think is his ultimate work, which is later. But it is Born on the 4th of July feels far more of like a development in that way. Yeah. Even though this movie was really popular, this movie won Stone his second best director. This is wasn't like some like indie director starting out. Like, he's already at the precipice.
So do we want to get into a little synopsis about this movie before we get into the meat and potatoes of it? For those folks who have never seen this, shame on you. But should I do this in my movie theater voice, or since because it's a heady topic, we should just do regular?
I'm going to leave that to you, Brian.
Your call, Brian.
I am going to do movie theater voice because we got to have a little bit of leverage.
Hell yeah.
Okay. The biography of Ron Kovic, paralyzed in the Vietnam War. He becomes an anti-war and pro-human rights political activist after feeling betrayed by the country for which he fought. Probably a bad decision to do it in that voice. It sounds a little bit like movie theater voice and
do it again.
And Skinamax voice, like you guys remember that? A little bit of that.
Do it as Jar Jar Binks now.
No,
he's around a corner.
This is the biography of Ronnie Kovic, paralyzed in the Vietnam War, Misa thinks. He becomes an anti-war and pro-human rights political activist, Misa thinks, feeling betrayed by the country for which he fought bad doo-doo. There you go. There you go.
Perfect.
That was, by the way, for people who are watching and listening, that was not prepared in advance.
It really wasn't.
I did not know that I was going to be doing Jar Jar. Maybe I should do every synopsis that we do on this podcast in the Jar Jar voice.
Okie day.
Okie day. But yeah, this movie opens up a very interesting way. It kind of shows, a young Ronnie Kovic playing war. And that's, I think, the first bit of propaganda that I think I really see in this is we indoctrinate our kids to play war.
Well, what's so beautiful about the film too, is that like it really comes off like to me like the beginning of Blue Velvet by David Lynch. It's just like, look at this serene, beautiful world. Like, but soon we're gonna find out what's under the grass and in the dirt, But at first, let's just enjoy the dream. Even though I will say, I believed in the propaganda that all the soldiers that went to World War II just came back and proud and had no issues whatsoever. So I was like 13 when I saw this movie, and to see the World War II soldiers in like the parade jump when they would fire the guns in the air, I'm like, oh no, they suffered as much as the Vietnam veterans. They just they said nothing about it and then probably killed themselves or beat their wives or something.
That's what makes The Master so good. That's what makes the whole first act of The Master is just completely going through PTSD. But yeah, Brian, just on the first, especially first, what was it, like 20 to 30 minutes or so, at least just the childhood part of it, including his high school. So much of it in not even just war, because that's like Stone being himself, where he is very on the nose, very trying to be as like pointed as possible. Like, see, this is what America is indoctrinating our children. But he keeps going throughout of it. And when you get to the wrestling practice, the coach is using very military coded language, which is used a lot of sporting, like sports and
aren't
coaches.
They using the word kill? Like, aren't they basically
kill,
like
all
chanting
the time.
Kill?
Yes. Football, best example of it. Bill Belichick, his biggest inspiration for quote unquote leadership was The Art of War, like by Sun Tzu. So the amount of sports and people, how they practice will take on this more kill.
This whole time.
Yeah.
This whole time I thought Bill Belichick's greatest influence was Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
Got him. Fuck you, Bill.
Yeah, you'd think. But yeah, it's just planting ideas about, I guess, conformity, listening to your coach, listening to your drill instructor, listening to your colonel, your general. And it keeps going too, even to like the idea of just conquering is everywhere in the first part of it. At the end of the first act, so to speak, it ends with a so-called sexual conquest. It ends with Cruise getting the girl, compared to a guy who is just named in passing and you barely see. He kind of becomes a sort of the other, and just another, I guess, stepping stone for Tom Cruise to get another conquest, get another victory for himself, for his family. So it's all throughout the first act of just
even in that first act. I mean, there are so many supporting things that support the propaganda in my mind. Like, Cruise's mother in this is a Catholic who is all in support of him going to war and getting in the army and all of that stuff. Whereas you can tell that she's still drinking the Kool-Aid. And the dad, though, has
passive.
Well, he's passive, but it's at the point where he's like, I know what it was like, because he did say that he was in World War II. So, like, he experienced a little bit of it enough, but he's so far removed from it that he can't relate to it. So he's like, okay, I guess so, but just, be careful, do you have to go there? He's
far away.
He's so far removed from the horrors of it. And it's one of those things, like, I think that's a generational thing from this time period of people didn't confront their horrors, and they didn't confront what their, the pain. And you had some people who went and said, well, I'm just going to bury it down deep down in my soul and not discuss it and let my children repeat the same thing. Or you're like the mom who's like, yep, you know what? It didn't happen. And we're just going to put all of our faith in God. And because she's all about the church being supportive. And again, another authoritative figure in this, if you will. So it's that opening 20 minutes it kind of sets the stage for someone who is literally swimming in nothing but red, white, and blue propaganda from all corners.
Yeah. I mean, the dad as well. And this is where Stone is a great writer of men, especially, and I emphasize men, and we'll get also into that.
Yeah.
But Raymond J. Barry as the father, Eli, his reserved nature, especially when he's just thinking about not only his experience, but you can see how his experience in his own PTSD is never explored, but in his timidity, you can see that clearly he went through some shit during World War II. But no one wants to hear about it because we won. Why would you be upset? Like, you won.
Right.
But every little hesitation Barry makes, you can really see a man who's struggling with the war that is now 20 years removed. And now he's about to see his son go off, and it's unlocking these feelings in his son that weren't there, especially start when he was just a little child. So it's very fascinating. It makes Barry one of the best performances and one of the most interesting performances through the whole movie for sure.
Yeah. And that to me is very interesting, because the idea that this film would, in any way, shape, or form question World War II. And look, we were attacked. We went in there for the right reasons. So I'm not saying anything. Right. But that doesn't mean that it's still not, it's people didn't go through hell, because of the war. And the idea to even mention that, our greatest military victory, no, these men came home and they were supermen, and nothing bothered them, everything was perfect. To even question, even noble just wars still can fuck people up, beyond repair. It happens. You can't go through that and then not have it bother you to some degree.
No, I mean, the horrors that you experience in any sort of conflict, those stay with you. Those don't go away. There's reasons why, people who have come back from Iraq and Afghanistan still to this day deal with horrors. Not us physical horrors, burn pits and that sort of shit, but mental stuff because of what they had to either do to survive or what they experienced. And this movie does a really good job, in my opinion, of showcasing the nuance of that, showcasing the horrors. I mean, I was surprised when we get to the after this 20-minute section where, Cruise is in on a firefight where he mows down, him and his platoon mow down a family because they think that there's Viet Cong in the household. And whereas a movie that maybe wasn't done by someone who was as artful as Oliver Stone is, who doesn't shy away from any of that stuff, you see it and you hear it in full, Technicolor blood and gore. Whereas war movies prior to this, I don't think Apocalypse Now ever went to this extreme.
Yeah.
And I would say there's a difference there, because I think that in 1979 we were so disenfranchised by so many things that happened, by not just with Vietnam but Watergate and and everything, that I think that what Coppola was trying to do was to make Vietnam feel like a dream. That's why he based it on Heart of Darkness. Like, did this really happen, or was this just some kind of fever dream that we had for the last 15 years?
But this at times feels like a documentary. Like, there are moments when we're sweeping through the house and you're seeing, one kid's got his leg blown off. There's a baby screaming her head off, and all Cruise is trying to do is try to be human for a shred of a second. Realizing, oh my God, we have to help these people. And what's happening is people are pulling him back from it, saying, no, that's against orders. It's just really sickening to me.
Yeah. I guess my one note on this movie in general is, I guess, because we were talking about the, othering of people. I mean, the Vietnamese in this are barely mentioned, and most people outside of the vets, even though they're the ones committing these actions, whether because they've been lied to, but still, the Vietnamese people really become solely a device for Ron Kovic to become disenfranchised in a way. Like, yes, it is obviously that it has the intended effect of realizing how brutal it is, but there is not even to say there's not interiority to it, but there is not like it is using uh, Asian people who are victims of American imperialism to just show this journey, this white man's journey. And look, it's not to say that it doesn't invalidate the story. It's just, I guess, a one little note I would have on it, because Stone is usually just focused on like white guys who went to Vietnam like himself and came back and are completely shattered by all the illusions and the lies. So that'd be my one note from it. The scene is, can't say the scene isn't effective. It really is. It's very upsetting, still is. And the second sequence as well is just terrifying as well. It shows Stone as a stylist and as an artist and a builder of tension. He's second to none.
Yeah, and that's not even to say when Tom Cruise like does friendly fire and blows off one guy in his platoon immediately after all this shit happens, right? And then is told, yeah, just forget about it. Didn't happen.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal, man.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, this movie, because it's based on, Ron Kovic's autobiography. It's not like a typical structure, I would say. Like we have childhood, and then we kind of meet, I would say, our true, obviously young Ron Kovic is the same as older Ron Kovic, but we're really introduced to our character when we get to Tom Cruise, him going through high school, and then, him in Nam, him in recovery, him broken at home. We get the Mexico stuff, and then we get the, I'm going to come back, and fight, for everybody. Like, this is not like, if this was completely made up, I don't think that we'd have this structure, but because it's based on someone's actual life and they want to hit everything, like it's almost like this is like a 6-act structure, this movie.
Yeah, no. Can I say like my big brained like thought on the movie and specifically as to the structure? So Stone, I think, is one of, at least among Hollywood screenwriters and directors too. He's a great director, of course, but where he got his like start in Hollywood was just through screenwriting. I think Stone is one of the smartest like screenwriters ever to grace the industry, because Born on the 4th of July works as well, because there are essentially, as you're saying, it was 6, but it's really more 5. There are 5 sections where really there's a time jump essentially. And there's the first, there's the childhood. Second, there is there's the war. Third is the hospital and returning home. Fourth is Mexico, and fourth is Mexico and Georgia, and fifth is just him becoming an anti-war protester. And what I think Stone is doing with that, I think is a little smart, is he's making a 5-act structure. And when most Hollywood films run through a 3-act structure, and there are little mini 3-act structures throughout this whole movie, and this is where my screenwriting class is getting coming back to me, all the classes I took. But I mean, 3-act structures in general come from the beginning, middle, end. That comes from like Aristotle, that comes from Homer, that comes from conquest, that comes from stories of war and hero that were made into being, like, whether fictional or real, heroes coming home from war, heroes fighting in war. It is so rooted, like violence and war is so rooted in the way we tell stories. And since Stone is explicitly making a movie about how these stories are in many ways lies, he wants to use a different kind of structure, not only to almost accurately reflect Kovic's life and the kind of mindlessness haze that comes after coming home from Vietnam. And a lot of this war is Tom Cruise kind of stumbling around and just having no sense of purpose. He only gets his sense of purpose in the last 10 minutes of the movie. Like he's not, like the anti-war protester stuff that comes at the very end. That's when it's promoted well, but it only comes at the very end. A lot of this movie is him struggling through the darkness. And I think Stone is very smart to make it more of a 5 act structure and relying upon it's honestly, oddly enough, it's like Miyazaki's films. Like Miyazaki's made war movies, but he makes them in 5 act structures kind of for this reason. And it's so fascinating to me. It's why Stone, I think, is again, I think this movie cements his genius, and as especially in the field of screenwriting. And I think it's just second to none.
Yeah.
It was rambling, but I think I got the point.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I guess my question is, do we want to talk a little bit about that, that Tom Cruise himself going through the darkness here? Obviously he ends up getting shot and paralyzed, and the sequence of him in the hospital, not necessarily the hospital like where he's in the Bronx, but like that sequence where you've got the father who's giving him the last rites, because everybody in that camp is like, yeah, you got shot, you're gonna probably die.
Yeah, we got 5 doctors for like 110 injured men,
Yeah. And I think for me, what's interesting about just kind of that whole sequence is how music plays into it, because you've got Tom Cruise in a very like patriotic soundscape behind him as it's slow motion, as he's shooting down enemies. And then the minute he gets shot for real, like doesn't get shot in the back, but gets shot in the chest, it's a dead cut. It's almost like, oh yes, in your head, here is this patriotic music, and now we're done. Now here's reality.
Yeah. And also it's so fun about
it's just brilliant.
Yeah, and what's fun about Stone too is that he's using Williams scores to like, especially, and this is especially the case in JFK, whereas this noble patriotic music generally about people who are at times gone through some really fucked up shit, or are kind of crazy, like Jim Garrison it was in real life. And he's using this music that you could find very much on Aaron Sorkin's The West Wing, or in a plethora of Aaron Sorkin America movies. And that's what makes Stone and Sorkin as a comparison so interesting, where they both kind of believe in this past, or not even past exceptionalism, but like believing in these myths at one point or another. Stone is just kind of has such more of a harder edge because he's gone through the worst of it. And so he finds solace in the crazier aspects, but there is a lot of crossover between how him and Sorkin view America. Stone, I just think, and it's especially the case today, because he'll be like, you guys see this piece of paper I found? It's this proves the CIA killed JFK. Like Sorkin's gone on to like, write columns in the New York Times just about why he'd pick a Republican for the Democrats, but Stone's still like as crazy as ever. I love him for it. I kind of love him for it, even though it's insane. He's insane.
I do love. I think Showtime, their streaming service, got sucked up by another one, but at the time it was Showtime streaming. And I love Oliver Stone's victory lap that he took, like when like a lot of these reports came out on JFK, and he's like, I was right, nana boo boo.
that whole document, the JFK Revisited doc, is him just running victory laps, and I'm like, dude, like
I haven't seen that.
Down.
I have to go see that apparently.
The last 15 minutes is him sucking his own dick. It's incredible.
It really is. The whole movie is him reinforcing JFK, why Vietnam was a lie, why I was wrong, and also just him sucking his own dick. It really is just
it
that.
Doesn't take much to say, like, yes, the war in Vietnam was bad, and yes, it was horrible, and we should have never done it. It doesn't take much. I mean, I guess it's also worth saying, like, time has a tendency to make those things look very black and white, which at the time was really shades of gray, even though it was artificial shades of gray propagated by a military-industrial complex that just wanted to, stamp out left-leaning communist or socialist governments, because we couldn't have that. For money. Because that's really all it is about.
You know what his new movie is about, right?
What's his new movie?
Or, like, it's called White Lies. It's still like, it has a production company, does not have a distributor. So filming concluded, I think, this month. Yeah, he's because he hasn't had a feature film in 10 years since
Yeah.
Snowden, and that is a whole other movie you guys could talk about for a long time. But it's a
Yep.
movie called White Lies. Apparently, it's about divorce and troubled families, which is not necessarily in his oeuvre, but it is again about the lies we tell ourselves. That's something he cannot stop obsessing over, especially when it's with Vietnam. But he just can't help but feel like he was lied to, and it manifests itself so much over a lot of his films.
Well, it's it's not really a sidebar. We're still talking about the movie, but I think he really wanted to write and direct this movie about Ron Kovic because the two of them are two peas in a pod. They both volunteered for Nam. They weren't drafted.
Brothers.
Yeah,
They're
they
brothers,
chose to go there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's he just Stone can't stop. He cannot stop thinking about the ways this country has done him and people like him wrong. And it's produced incredible films like Born on the Fourth of July, Platoon, JFK, and then it has produced films like Snowden.
I take it you don't like Snowden as much as the other ones.
It's a tough sit. It's a tough sit. I'm gonna watch it again soon. I'm in leading up to this pod. I've been going through Stone again. I'm like, God, this man's so good.
The thing is, like, cocaine is a hell of a drug, but like also getting off of cocaine's a hell of a drug because it's just like when you watch Snowden, he like has no edge whatsoever. I'm like, where's the guy who made a football movie where a guy was tackled so hard his eyeball was on the field, and then you cut to shots of like the Illuminati when you have a close up of the eyeball? Cocaine is a hell of a drug,
dude.
It's worth mentioning. This movie is showcasing the propaganda that turns someone into a war hawk who's suffered horrifying mental and physical trauma. And it only is until they finally have gone through it. You said, Henry, the last 10 fucking minutes of this movie is when he finally fucking gets it. And that's literally us to a T. That's the country to a T.
Yeah.
And also get it until 5 minutes when they listen to him.
When they finally fucking listen to him.
Right. Because John, as you said, it's like in those last 10 minutes, he's even split up, where like the first 5 of those last 10 minutes is him being treated as this villain and somebody that is being watched by federal authorities as he gets arrested by who he thought was his friend. Like they're being spied on, even though they're veterans who've fought for their country. And then finally he's accepted. But yeah, it is a movie not even about like taking collective action against like a force of United States imperialism. It is coming to the finally understanding like this is like understanding your dissolution and doing something about it, and then the movie starts essentially. Yeah.
It really hits you in your patriotic red, white, and blue soul there, right?
I would be remiss though to talk about just coming home as well, because he is rejected a ton by his family, because in a way that he says it like in his argument with his mother, where he's like, you want to sweep me under the rug. You want to sweep all of us under the rug because we are failing there. And it is explicit, and whether it's consciously or not, that's what society is doing to them. They don't want, and Stone captures a little bit of the both sides of it, or this tough place Vietnam vets were in, where they went over thinking they were doing something good, and they come home to people who are like are turning their heads to look at you because they're either embarrassed, ashamed, or they're ashamed for their country that they're doing this, but they don't want to admit it, or they're the hippies on the other end who are flipping them off, calling you like a
baby killer.
Baby killer. Yeah. So you really can understand how where Stone is coming from and what like kind of bind these veterans are in. And yeah, that's what makes it so interesting. I mean, also the Mexico sequence is just phenomenal.
Well, his central star in this movie has always been showcasing the life of a veteran of that. It's not necessarily looking at it through the left or even the right wing, although he does kind of showcase that. But yeah, it's to your point, like it's a reminder. They're reminders, either good, bad, or indifferent of what, as you said, failure looks like. That's why, like, it's funny to me, like when Tom Cruise loses the wrestling match, that face, that shame that comes over his mom. I'm like, that same face comes over when he comes home and he's paralyzed, and you start to see that he's an alcoholic, and he's, kind of just spiraling in the horrors that he's had to do and dealing with normalcy.
Yeah. Another way I guess Stone doesn't almost fully push it is in a way, it's especially when he goes to visit his fling up in Syracuse, and at the end of the movie when he's at the Democratic National Convention, where he is basically be used as a tool again, essentially, whether it be for anti-war means or the Democratic Convention, who the Democrats, whether they voted for the war or not, can now conveniently be like at that time against the Vietnam War and be very popular just because the Republicans were the ones doing it, even though LBJ was Democrat and he initiated it.
He got us into it.
But yeah, he's now speaking at the 76th Democratic Convention, assumedly to help Jimmy Carter win, or for his own interest to help people realize veterans are people too, and like this is what we're going through. But it's underexplored, I think, by Stone to show that Kovic is, in his own biography, was kind of a tool for everyone. It's something that would be interesting if there was an extra scene about like Kovic being almost uncomfortable or getting like, there's, as you were saying, Brian, there's a gaze, not like a male gaze, but a gaze at this all-American boy, and they're looking at him like we're putting all your hopes and dreams on them. You failed. We are embarrassed. We are ashamed. We reject you. If there was a scene like that at the Democratic Convention where there's gazes at him again, that would be interesting, and Stone kind of examining it from all.
Do you think, though, maybe that is because this is 1989 and
yes,
and
100%
in the midst of still Reagan / Poppy Bush's America, he doesn't want to like throw too much shade on the Democrats, because that's what I look at it as. Yeah,
100%. And also just like anti-war protesting, there was a lot of crossover between anti-war protesting and Marxist ideology, civil rights movement. Like, that's not to say it's a negative thing. It's just there's a lot of crossover between those three, I guess, movements. And I'm sure whether it be a studio not wanting to fully go out and promote Marxism during this time, or get into more uncomfortable discussions that, say, filmmakers like Spike Lee would eventually do in Malcolm X only a few years later. Who knows? Maybe that's just Stone's own implicit limitation.
It would be interesting to note if, like, he made this movie in 2026, what it would look like.
Sure.
Because in my mind, I absolutely believe that you would see more blatant criticism of both Democrats and Republicans in their approach. Just in their approach of how they both have used and either to the detriment or to the benefit of veterans. They've used them as backdrops, for fuck's sake. I mean, in both parties have. Like, that's something that
absolutely,
they both have done it to exert strength, because that's for some reason something that we have to do. But they're both guilty of doing it, and they're both serving, let's be honest, the same interests for why wars like that are fought in the first place. Money, because that's what it's all about.
I gotta shout out Willem Dafoe, man. He's incredible.
Yeah,
he's crazy.
Can't miss talk about Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe in anything is great.
He's better in this than he's better than this than he was in Platoon. I think, no question. I think he's given far more meat on this bone to be not only insane. Of course, there is the whole discussion of why have these two big movie stars, like, or an ableist discussion about this, but that's been talked about before. But still, as this crazy man in Mexico, Defoe is fantastic. He gets to be like creepy, like crazy, but he never gets to be like balls to the wall crazy. Like, he's always like in the background, or he's crazy in the sense of like Robert Eggers crazy, where it's like creepy, folklore-ish, so to speak, and or but when he's like, his eyes are like really wide, and he's kind of losing his mind. The only other movie he really does it is like when he's the Green Goblin. Like he Stone tap, he taps
He's
into
the Green
Defoe.
Goblin.
Seriously, it's Stone taps into yeah. Like Stone really does tap into Defoe's ability to get his eyes like really wide. You can really tell, like, okay, this man's like fucking losing it. Like this man's lost it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no one else I could think of. I mean, even though I loved Skarsgård in Nosferatu, I mean, Willem Dafoe did play a vampire, and he definitely did the eye thing more than once in that movie. Okay, so I don't have reviews for this movie. One, because I have a feeling any review I would have picked might be a little bit either like congratulatory to the movie or be kind of viewed at through the lens of someone saying, yeah, this movie's too slow. But what I do have, and this is a treat, I didn't tell any of you guys this. So I've been trying to be a little bit more active on our social media, specifically Threads. And so I knew we were going to be doing a 4th of July movie. So I put out a call to people on Threads about what are their favorite 4th of July movies. I wanted to read a couple of them on the podcast. I want to get your picks, too, on what your favorite 4th of July movies are, too, Henry and John. So are you ready to look at... I only got 3 of these. You ready to look at our audience's picks for 4th of July movies?
Yeah.
All right. So first one is from our friends at Dissect That Film Pod. They picked Jaws.
Of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a safe bet. I always forget that Jaws is a 4th of July movie. I always do.
What?
For Christ's sakes, tomorrow's the 4th of July, and these beaches will be open.
Yeah, I know that, but like I always forget that because I'm like, oh well, it's just about the giant shark eating people on the beach, but it's set on the 4th, and I always forget about that.
And I think the movie ends on my birthday.
Does it end on your birthday?
I think so. I can't
Like the time span of the movie?
Yeah, like when they're going to shore at the end of it. Spoiler alert.
So when they blow up the shark, that's on your birthday. So like literally, you should have, and I don't know if your significant other has done this yet, a Jaws like cake for your birthday in which the candle is like the exploding like canister. That
would be pretty tight.
So what you're saying is after we record this podcast, you're going to ask Christine, can you go make me this cake that Brian described?
Go make a Bruce cake. Yeah.
Go make a Bruce cake. But Henry, what about you? What are your thoughts on Jaws? You love Jaws?
Of course. Jaws is great.
Okay. What about Jaws 2? Nobody likes Jaws 2.
The kids
get, I mean, look, 4.
Look, Jaws 2 is still infinitely better than 3 or 4. Like,
how dare you, sir? 4 is a masterpiece.
I have never seen 4.
Down.
Yeah.
Wasn't 3 the 3D one? Like, wasn't that the Jaws 3D?
Yes.
When they thought, like, yeah, let's go do 3D in the mid-'80s. That's cool. Okay. Yeah. All right, you ready to go to favorite 4th of July movie number 2?
All right.
So this came from Yarnpocalypse, and they said, I am not American, but Independence Day 1 and 2, The Patriot, Mars Attacks, and Jaws, like someone else said. Independence Day 1 and 2. 2,
yeah. I do love that Mars Attacks in there, you know, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, we saved the day, us Americans.
There's a war movie.
Woman saved the day. Yeah.
There's a war movie there for you. Our battle with the Martian hordes, and all it took was yodeling to save America and the world. Yeah. Henry, have you ever seen Mars Attacks?
It's good. It's good. I need to revisit.
It's a not thought of Tim Burton film. Like a lot of people, I think, skim over that one.
Very much so. Very forgotten. It was always on the movie channels. I remember that's how I basically watched all of Mars Attacks, is through the movie channels. Like
See,
over
Yeah.
time. Not all at once, but over time. I saw every little bit of Mars Attacks.
Burton was like that little bird that collected water that you had on your desk, and like the water never
Yeah.
affected until one drop, and that was Mars Attacks, and it went like just boom, and just spilled
Yeah.
out. It's like,
Right.
oh, hey,
Yeah.
what happened there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still love it. I mean, I was like, I think that movie came out in '96, so like I was around 11 when it came out, and I was like, yep, this is made for me, and it has everything that an 11-year-old boy wants to see: aliens, even Lisa Marie as an alien, which was always fun.
Jack Nicholson double roll.
Jack Nicholson fucking double roll. How the fact that he got him to do a double roll is amazing.
Awesome.
As a casino
I
magnate
really
and the
Nicholson
president.
did it. He probably
Well,
went,
that's what I'm saying.
here's the deal. I want to play both characters. You,
Okay.
Jack, you do?
You
Put
do?
me in heavy makeup.
I want to be this casino magnate guy. I think I can pull him off. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
and
we'll
our
tell Kenneth Branagh to suck it.
all right, and our final suggestion for 4th of July movies. This one is interesting. This one came from @TChristian_4077. He said 1776, Yankee Doodle Dandy, and Hamilton. Someone likes their musicals.
Yeah.
Well,
No question.
See, on
Good.
all those lists, they're missing one key one, because I look at every holiday ironically. It's just who I am.
Sure.
And every 4th of July like weekend, I watch Team America World Police.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
it's not exactly 4th of July, but it hits
it
all
is.
that. Yeah.
It fucking is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
yeah.
Yeah, well, you want some. I was just looking at movies that are actually set on the 4th of July, and there is a movie that does technically is a 4th of July movie. It takes place at the very beginning of the film.
Oh.
Zodiac.
Oh, yes.
Oh
Yeah,
shit.
first-
Yeah.
It's like 1% of the entire movie.
Sure, but it's more
right,
than a
yeah.
percent of than Born on the 4th of July. In fairness, I mean, not much.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Independence
Yeah.
Day, but that's not much of it. I was trying to look at it as well. I think. Well, Nashville is the bicentennial, and since we're going through 250th, there you go.
Yeah.
I guess my favorite would probably be, even though I've looked into it, it's Brian De Palma's Blowout. I think would be my favorite Independence Day movie. They call it Liberty Day in the movie, but it ends on fireworks in front of a giant American flag. I don't know what you're like. How are you not supposed to interpret that as Independence Day?
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me, there's a draw. And I know some people might say, like, well, this movie isn't an Independence Day movie. I kind of look at it as, because it's like, it's summer, and that's the Sandlot. So I think Sandlot
Sure.
is absolutely
The 4th of July's in there.
it's in there. Yeah. I know it's in there.
for a bit.
It's in there for a good bit. But I look at it as, like, if I wanted a movie about summer and about the 4th of July, which is obviously the core, like, holiday during the summer, the Sandlot, and then, of course, Independence Day, the OG.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I remember when that movie came out and the insanity around it, and seeing it, like, 4th of July weekend. It was brilliant. Fucking brilliant. And then you see the sequel, and you're just like, oh, God. What happened? What did you do to my boy? That's what it felt like to me, at least. Go check our back catalog. We reviewed that one, and we reviewed Independence Day. Yeah. We called it Independence Day Regurgitation, because that's what the movie kind of was. But
There you go.
yeah. But so, Henry, what else is going on with you? What's going on in your neck of the woods? You've got a couple of projects going on, right?
Yep, I still have my stuff, Substack, the stuff I watched. I'm still writing reviews for Film Obsessive, and yeah, that's really where you can find my work, especially on film. And I'm excited to hopefully go cover fall festivals like TIFF in New York.
Dear Tiff, if you're listening, you should just go and make Henry and us, like, hell, we'll go. Let's do it. Make him, someone who can cover
Yeah.
your stuff.
Yeah, but at the I guess at the buzzer of this podcast episode, I have to acknowledge like these two character actors were at the buzzer of this movie. Wayne Knight and John C. McGinley were both in the very last scene when they're in like the planning room. You can see Wayne Knight in the background. Of course, Wayne Knight is more known for being in JFK.
Newman.
Yes. And then McGinley is the one who is holding Kovic in the wheelchair. You can't really see him for much of it, but you can see he's obviously a very noticeable redhead, and he's very like distinct face. So I was able to clock those very quickly at the very end of the movie, and that made me
Also,
happy.
Vivica A. Fox apparently plays a hooker in this movie.
Huh. Yes, she does. Yes.
Yeah. So she's in 2 4th of July films.
Yes, I mean, yeah,
technically,
maybe the most famous.
Technically. Oh, good. Well, with it said, Henry, where can people find more information about you, about your work, about follow your Substack, and all that fun stuff?
Sure, you can find my Twitter, just Real Henry O'Brien. You can follow me on Letterboxd, Henry O'Brien 23. Obviously, stuff I watch is on Substack, and you can go to filmobsessive.com for all my work and a lot of other great work from members of the Pittsburgh Film Critics Association and just other great writers out there.
Awesome. John, where can they find you at on the internets?
Facebook, Instagram, and over at YouTube at JDubs Video Nasties.
Nice. Any new things coming down the pipe on your channel?
Yeah, I've had some delays, but Ladybug should be out soon. I'm going to try to get something else out that's summery. I was thinking maybe Pleasantville or Liar Liar or something along those lines that kind of fit that summer theme.
Is Liar Liar a summer movie?
No, but I mean, I think it came out in the summer, and it just has that energy.
Yeah.
It's not a summer movie.
Yeah,
No,
I
it's
was
not.
gonna say.
The kid's in school. He's in school, but
yeah, the kid's in school.
It should shoot it in California, so it's just sunny all the time. I think that's what I'm basing that on.
Okay.
I always thought that was like a late fall movie, personally, but late fall in Los Angeles, so that's why it looks like summer.
Which looks like the summertime. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, if you want to follow our podcast, you can follow us at cinemapsychoshow.com/follow. You can click that and go to all the little apps that we have there. We have them all buttons right there. You can click and you can follow us so you can never miss an episode. And of course, if you're watching us here on YouTube, hey, thank you so much for doing that. Do me a favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, and let us know down in the comments, what did you think of Born on the 4th of July? And with that said, we will see you next time.
Hey, everybody. From my final message here, this is your Uncle John talking. I know that right now, between the politicians and the billionaires out there, it can feel kind of hard to be patriotic, but I would recommend looking towards paramedics, firefighters, doctors, people who help people who run shelters, things of that nature. There's still a lot of beauty out there and a lot of great things to call yourself an American, and that's what I hold on to this 4th of July. So I hope you do too. We love you, and have a great 4th of July. Be safe.